we're doing this now. So this whole thing started because there was a comment on Twitter that stressed that it is not special to not like something, and perhaps stressing the fact that you are not special for disliking something. And this brings up the conversation about criticism versus just negativity. I do believe in constructive criticism. I believe that, unfortunately, people will dislike something on grounds that seemingly have no merit. I but I do appreciate constructive criticism. I think when someone's being overly negative, it's really easy to dismiss them, and it's a very shaky. It's very shaky ground. It's a very thin gray line between negativity and bullying, and being a troll, effectively. And that's why I think it's important that there is the people be aware of that line. That there's a point where you can be so aggressive, you can aggressively dislike something so much that it turns into volatility. And I wasn't going to comment on this because it was just a comment. You know, Rodney from Watch It Played, who's a fellow Canadian, even though he's on the opposite side of the country, made a comment and then turned into a video because he was very passionate about it. And Alex Radcliffe, who is also Canadian, but I guess lives in Colorado, also made a point about this. And I made a comment on his thread, but then I realized, yeah, this is an important point. And as someone who is both a content creator and a critic in some area, I'm closely related to this topic because I have been someone who dished it out and received it. For those people who don't know me outside of this channel, I also have another channel called Prince Gastronome where I post racing videos and videos about food and cuisine because they're around the same time of my writing, and I've been writing a lot longer, mind you, but I decided I was going to start a blog where I was going to review all the local restaurants. And this ended up expanding to basically every restaurant I ever visited throughout numerous vacations internationally and so forth. And I posted to various blog sites and so forth, and I ended up getting a local reputation. In fact, if you were to ask someone who does know me locally in my hometown, they wouldn't say, "Oh, he's the guy who writes role-playing games." They would say he is the guy who writes the restaurant reviews. And I developed a following of sorts, both positive and negative. The negative people didn't just dislike me; they despised me to the point where I actually started receiving threats. And this was because of two reasons. One is that I was making my review to be narrative. I was writing stories. I was writing an article. It was long. It was 700 words, generally minimum. And it was 700 words because that was Yelp's top limit. I used to write stuff that was even longer. I wrote a review on Claridge's that was 1,100 words. And eventually I dropped it down to Yelp 700. It kept me on budget. But I received negativity. I received threats. And the first reason was because I wouldn't go into a quick bullet point. It wasn't a paragraph that goes into the facts, and some people want that. And ironically, or coincidentally, I'll get into me receiving the exact same criticisms in another entirely different environment. The other reason was the fact that I was negative. Now, it's important to be honest. I was negative, and it's also important to be honest when you're doing a review. So if you don't like something, you should say you don't like something. However, it's also the intent. Did I go to this place intending to dislike it? Did I go to this place going, oh, I can't wait to rip this one a new one? And that's the big difference. I did not go into any of these places thinking this is going to suck. I was going in trying to find these local jewels that I can say, hey, I bet you didn't know about this place. It's off in this corner and it's amazing. And let's talk about how amazing it is. And sometimes it didn't happen. And the review would be a color commentary talking about it. And sometimes I'm positive, but there's certain funny little things that may come off as negative, but are more there for joviality. Like I thought this was funny. There was a stain on the roof that caught my attention. This is not saying anything bad about the place. It's a simple observation. But a lot of people took me as being overly negative. And I didn't think that was the case. I thought that, yeah, I was negative. But I looked at my aggregate, and it was 1 to 5 stars. My average review score was 4. If you go to Urban Spoon and Yelp, and Urban Spoon eventually became another site, and Zomato and TripAdvisor and all that, and my average review, my aggregate was like a 4 or 4.2, which is in no way negative. But despite this, people believed I was overly negative, and this is one of the reasons. Like, why can't you love things? Why can't you support local? I go, I am supporting local, but I'm not going to give them a pass. I'm not going to say support this even though the food is crap because it's local, right? And some people have said I've contributed to some places closing down, which I do not believe. Some people say I have contributed to some places' success, which I also do not believe. I don't believe that I had that much of an impact. Some people speak otherwise. But at my prime, I was quite well known. Transition a few years later, because I stopped doing these reviews for nearly 3 or 4 years ago. And around the same time, I started doing reviews for the Dice Tower. I was not creating role-playing board games. I was a role-playing creator, was and still is. And as a result, I felt I could review board games. Now I'm reviewing board games, so it may be a bit of a conflict to review board games when I'm a board game creator. But back then I didn't. And I started doing reviews. And of course, I got the same negative response, right? Why are you telling us a story? Go into the bullet point. But this is very much a Dice Tower mentality. If these videos were on Shut Up and Sit Down, or No Pun Included, people probably would be more accepting of the content. But on Dice Tower, there is an expectation of what the review should be. Talk about it, overview it, game components, run what you like and dislike, and get out of the room. Be as fast and concise as possible. And I did a 48-minute review on a game where most of it's talking about other things relating to the game, but not the game itself. And that's why I got massive dislikes on my reviews for This War of Mine and my vacation review on viticulture. And they say it's and some people were saying and honestly, I almost never posted a negative review. The only time I ever posted a negative review for a game on Dice Tower was because it was a game that Dice Tower sent me to review, and I felt obligated to do so. And in which case, there's only like 2 or 3. Master of the Galaxy, Dead Draw, probably some of the only exceptions. And that one and Alchemistry, which my wife liked, and I didn't. And oddly enough, I got a lot of criticism for that, disliking stuff. And yet, I received a lot of positive love for my coverage of games I did like, and yet there were still people who disliked it. You could still see the fact that I have way more downvotes on my video, even though my videos generated more traffic. Like, there's way more hits on my Dice Tower reviews than the other third-party people. So outside of the big 3 or 4, I would generate the most hits out of that kind of the next tier down, but I also generate the most downvotes. I don't have any that have a higher downvote than upvote, but some of them are actually really close, because some people really had it out for me. They wanted me to fall, and some people wanted me off the channel because they got so angry they made a point of being negative. That's not criticism. That is just plain out bullying, and some of these people are outright trolls. Like I said, when I was doing restaurant reviews, I had someone say that they were coming to my house to beat the crap out of me, and I called them on it. I was like, come out right now. Come out. Please, I dare you, I double dare you, come out and exert your will that aggressively on me and take the consequences of your actions. And it's not because I'll beat you up. It's like, no, if you're going to show up and do that, I'm going to know who you are, and you're going to go to jail. So it's an empty threat. Now, we've been showing this Ultra Modern 5 here, and those people are thinking of doing this for blind advertising. But the point is, this deal of the day is only up for 24 hours. This video is going to go up on that day, but it's only going to be up for a few hours, and we're not going to get enough views to really matter. But specifically, I was pointing at DriveThruRPG, which is where I get most of all of my reviews. Like I said, I have one board game. We'll get into that in a second. And I have been really lucky in that I have an average review aggregate on DriveThru of 4.5 out of 5 stars. I am excruciatingly lucky. And there's people say, oh, it's because of the quality of the content. No, no. People can target you. Like I said, there can be a concerted effort by a group of people to review bomb you. And some places get review bombed for absolutely no reason. And I truly believe there'll be a time where I'm going to get review bombed because of my personal beliefs, which and people have posted negative reviews on my titles purely based not on the subject but because of things I have said, but it's not gone pretty hard. So when we look at something like these reviews, we can see that like Ultramodern 5 Redo, you know, it has a 3-star, it has a 4-star, it has a 5-star, and there's as we look through it, I am very, very lucky. I mean, there's no way to answer. I am very lucky, and that's because I put a lot of passion in my work. Going into the old Ultramodern 5, which has even more ratings, I'm also very, very lucky. But we still here, full of very loose and overpowered character option rules. Only if you feel like tweaking for 4 hours, you might make something with it. Now, not really useful. It doesn't really go into details what is, say, wrong or right. Loose and overpowered character option rules. I might have gone into details of my opinions. Whenever I talk to people about it, I'm very passionate about my opinions of 5e. I love 5e and D&D in general to be a fantastic sandbox in order to run campaigns, but it is not a balanced system. Everyone will find ways to break the system. And I'm not saying every system has to be homebrew, but the fact that most people, I believe Ultramodern 5, especially Redo, is a proper fitting system. Can you break it to make it overpowered? Of course you can, but you can do that with any system. And so yeah, not much there, right? But once again, very lucky. High 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. We got a 3 here. In grammatical formatting issues on this one, there's nothing I can do about that. I need to spend more money on people to proofread my product. I don't spend enough time on that, to be perfectly honest. There's another one. Pretty disappointed. Feels like POD was rushed. Updates coming out right after the point that the errata is pretty huge. It feels like they all should have been tightened up before the POD was offered. It feels like my physical book has so many changes that I won't even really have a book I will actually use as a table. I don't think I will be giving this very good reviews around the internet. A half-done product is okay for PDFs, but a killer on people who buy a physical copy. Now, it should be noted, mind you, when it says about the errata is pretty huge. The errata for Ultramodern 5 is 2 pages. In comparison, the errata for 5th edition, so for 5th edition is longer, and then if you remember the 4th edition, the errata was 24 pages. Player's Handbook for D&D, 4th edition, was 24 pages. So, yeah, there's just no way around it. Sometimes things pop up. But yeah, right now the Ultramodern 5 errata is 2 pages. So, yeah, there's nothing I can do about that. But it's something that I'm very much aware of. And I do actually do that. People know me. I do, and this is a 5-year-old review, but I do, when I produce a product, I release it on PDF first, and I usually hold on it for a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months, and a lot of people come back with content. And so before Ultramodern 5 Redo hit print, I had received considerable amounts of feedback, and I incorporated those changes and ensured that I had gotten most of them finished before I sent it out. And so the book that got sent out for print had added in all these changes, thankfully. But it wasn't all of it, and a few things popped through, and I made a few changes to the PDF at the last moment, but there's a certain point where I stopped making changes to the PDF, and I just put out the POD as it was. And since then, in the intervening 8 or 9 months, we ended up finding a bunch of minor errors. Most of them are clarifications, but there were a couple 1 or 2 errors. But in the end, it ended up being about 2 pages worth of actual changes, and so far we're doing pretty good for that. So I'm not too bothered by it. But like I said, relatively lucky, and I think my other titles are do as well, if not more. Amethyst is going to be interesting because Amethyst's negative. If we see any negative reviews, this one doesn't have any. Which brings us to Naramata, which is the first board game that I've produced that is currently not out yet, and we have a couple reviews, and there's one that I admit kind of upset me. And this guy here says, this game is a hard pass for me. It's like a knockoff of Viticulture, but with contrived scoring and worker placement. Was watching on Kickstarter, and there appears to be mostly anonymous retailer support, which suggests the game will not get fixed by release date. There is a claim of a stretch goal that might fix some of the scoring issues, but it appears like it will not be released. Possible a bluff. First of all, great grammar. But now this one really, it pissed me off. It pissed me off because there's nothing critical. It feels like a trolling post. Like, he seems like he's endearing, but he is mistaken, and he wants to post something because he wants to be negative, because he doesn't hate it enough to just slam it. But there's no construction here, so I don't know why he made the effort to post a 1-star review for it. Because there are games that are really not very good that don't have 1-star reviews, and Naramata isn't even out and it has one. Now, addressing it specifically, we say the knockoff of Viticulture. The only thing Naramata and Viticulture have in common is the fact they both deal with wine. And then, in which case, there's about a dozen other games which can be a rip-off of Viticulture. You know, Vinhos, which is a fantastic game, which has the exact same gameplay objective. You're running a winery. I don't get people saying, oh, it's just a rip-off of Viticulture, because it's such a distinctly different game mechanically. And Naramata is a wine tourism game. You're not running a winery, right? It's a very different game. It's, if someone says it's just a rip-off of Tokaido, hey, I'll take that, because the two games are very similar. But Viticulture and Naramata really aren't. With contrived scoring, and I don't know what contrived scoring means. I seriously don't know what that means. Like, what is that? What are they trying to say with that? And worker placement, which is not true. Naramata is not a worker placement game. It has none of the elements of a worker placement, so I don't know why he's saying. It has anonymous retailer support, which it does, because at the end of the day, I didn't want to bother tracking a bunch of game stores. I can go out and research people and see which stores they represent, but ultimately it wasn't a big deal. And a lot of places that have retailer support, they don't bother asking, or they don't really care. They're putting a point in saying, we want you to tell us what store you represent, but most of the time they don't care. And then says, which suggests the game will not get fixed by release. He doesn't say anything that's wrong with the game. There's a claim of a stretch goal that may fix some scoring issues. Once again, completely 100% untrue. Right? I have never in my life ever said anything that the scoring was not correct, or that there would be a stretch goal that would fix it. I have never said that. But it will not be released. Says who? What evidence do you have that this game won't be released? If it's not being released, then I am out a lot of money, because I have paid for art, I have paid for physical assets, I paid for digital assets. If this game doesn't get released, people are going to say, are you going to take the money and run? I go, no, because that money will have been mostly spent. So yeah, the game has to get made, because I have people to answer to. I have wineries to answer to. I have business investors to answer to. So the fact that it will not be released is like, this is, it feels like a trolling comment. But unlike DriveThruRPG, which curates their reviews, they will delete your review if they feel that you are not being fair. You can't do that. You can't do that on IMDb. You can't do that on BGG. And I'm a little annoyed by that. You can't flag a review going, this review doesn't need to be here. Because this is not a constructive 1-star review. This person is trying to be special by having a 1-star review for a game that doesn't yet exist. It's not special to not like something. And this is personally connected because on my channel, this channel here, the video that I have, which has the most views, is me being critical for a movie I dislike. That's Alien Covenant. Now, I have reviewed 3 movies on this channel. Ghost in the Shell, Alita, and Alien Covenant. Now, in the other 2, I posted my reviews because I love them. Now, loving those is not a big shock. A lot of people do love those films, but they're not hugely successful. It doesn't have a massive... They're not billion-dollar films like Ghost in the Shell failed. And I've been defending, and I still do defend Ghost in the Shell. I'm fully aware of issues with it story-wise, issues with it casting-wise, and Alita I just love. I don't feel any issues with Alita. I love Alita, but I hated Alien Covenant, and I have a series of videos coming up soon, starting either later this week or the week after, where I talk about my history with the Alien franchise, my love of it, and as a result, my critical review for Alien Covenant wasn't because I just needed to shit on something. It came out because I was angry. I was angry because I love that franchise and I didn't like where they were going with it. I didn't like the choices that they made. And I personally believe that, in many ways, I regret and don't regret. I think it's important. My opinions are still valid. I still don't own Covenant. It's the only Blu-ray or movie that I don't own in that franchise. And I've seen it a couple times, and my opinions haven't changed. I did walk out of that film going, that film sucked. And it upset me because I generally forgive a lot in that franchise and sci-fi in general. I used to say that I don't hate a single sci-fi. That's not true. There's tons of sci-fi I don't like. But there have been films which I take joy in disliking. And generally it's because I don't like Michael Bay films. I think they're hot trash. I've seen his films in the theater, and yet I walk away going, why do people give him money? Right? I don't like any of the Transformers movies, even though I own one of them. Right? The Island, which everyone says is a good film, I absolutely cannot stand. Right? And I hated Armageddon. But I hated Armageddon because it was the more successful of the two asteroid impact films that got released, because only a few months before that was Deep Impact, which nobody talks about, which was a far superior film. So there's a passion in there. For example, people may not know this out here, my friends do, that I dislike Battlestar Galactica, the new reboot. I dislike it. And there's lots of reasons why, and I feel they're valid reasons. I have not made a video, and will not make a video listing why I dislike Battlestar Galactica, because there's no positive point to that. So my review for Alien Covenant, there's no positive to it. It was me being angry, and I was angry because I love it. There's no positivity in the video, but it's based because I love the franchise. And I was disappointed. Like I said, I generally love it. I like Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, which are not good movies, but I love them. And I didn't love Alien Covenant. It was the first time I walked out going, what was wrong? Why did I dislike this? And in many ways, that video was therapy for me to try to get my thoughts in gear of why I disliked this film. But ultimately, I wish that video wasn't as popular. I wish I could just push it out of the way. And I've been tempted to take it down completely, to delete it, saying, you know what? I don't want to be known for this video. I don't want to be known for this video. And I know, unfortunately, YouTube and the internet in general embraces negativity. If you want to see some of the highest views on some people's channels, sometimes it's the negative videos. Movie Bob Chipman is a perfect example. He has done hundreds of videos on various topics. And his number one video by a large margin is an extremely negative review he did on Pixels. Like his video, his views range from 50,000 to 200,000 on a time, and his Pixels review is, I think, surpassing 2 million, right? To the point where if he introduces himself to a stranger, he says, "I'm the guy who did the Pixels review," because chances are that's what they know him for. Chances are he is known for being overtly negative to one movie. Right? In many ways, he's special because he hated something so passionately. And I don't know if you've asked him, like, do you feel special and validated because of your Pixel review? And he might say, you know what? Yeah, because it got 1 million views. That was my, rise to fame. And I'm someone who's very, to be honest, very sensitive to critical feedback. If my products were blockbusters, but everybody hated it. If I was the Michael Bay, where people would give me money to do things, and I would still be able to do my things, but everyone would just be shitting on it, saying how bad it was, I don't think I'd be able to do it. I don't think I could ignore the negativity. I don't think I could keep on doing it. And I know there's some actors and some directors that couldn't handle it. They made successful films but couldn't handle it because a number of people disliked them. And we've seen situations online where people have been bullied off the internet because despite being successful in their right, they were being attacked. And some of them are from mean-spirited trolls that just want to take you down. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is a critical consensus for a successful movie or project makes a profit, but no one likes it. Then there's the opposite situation, like I am now, where I have like I said, a very high aggregate on drive-through, but I live in a basement. Would I accept mediocre sales and income in exchange for a rabidly loyal fan base? That's the ultimate question. I think there's a part of me that's like, the money would really be nice, but I don't know if I can handle overt negativity. Maybe it is better that I receive, I want to say, adored, but I don't want to be that vain, that people like my work and people give me good reviews, but I don't sell as much as I could. That's the ultimate question. And it's a tough one. I don't know if I can answer that, because trust me, being financially independent is extremely important in this day and age, right? But, there's a talk about legacy, If you have a bunch of 5-star products, will they last longer rather than something that makes money? Unfortunately, money does connect to success. There are tons of authors out there that people despise their novel. Like I don't want to name any names. I can name somebody, but I won't. But there's a couple of authors I know that my friends dislike, but is hugely successful, and that's just how it is. Anyway, that was it. I gave myself 30 minutes to rant about that. It's 33 now or so. And that was it. Yeah, I 100% believe it's not special to not like something. It's important to be critical, and it's okay to not like something. But it's not special to scream that hate to the world unless you're being constructive. And that's something that even I learned as a person. I think it's something that some people pick up, especially if you're a content creator. I don't know. I can't see a content creator who creates books or movies or TV is someone that wants to just scream out their hatred of something. And if they do, I think they should look in the mirror. But anyway, guys, this has been Chris from Deus Ex Machina, and I will see you guys later.